of society communities to understand what the information security needs actually are and the practices which people already have and have adopted within the groups that they live in day to day that are often underrepresented in the information security field. So I'm definitely going to go quite heavy in on the context here. So Cauca, where the department which I'm based in at the moment, is one of the most impacted regions by the conflict here in Colombia. And violence continues here every day, whether it's through physical, political, or digital means. The topic of futures is also a contested issue here, as in post-conflict countries, time is divided to attend to the atrocities which have already happened, but also to work towards a more secure future and look towards that together. And therefore, creating spaces for dialogue is inherently part of these processes to discuss these histories and futures. But one question that I've been asking throughout my research is, what is it that composes of dialogue? As a dictionary definition might tell us that it's more through conversation or spoken word. However, the security situation here often doesn't allow that. And we find a lot of talks and dialogues about the peace process happen song, through painting, through weavings, and through digital means, as ways to create spaces and to heal and to share in a way that feels more secure for the group. And just to mention a little further, there's over 9 million people who are registered as victims here in Colombia. And this research also works with social leaders, of which over 1,000 have been killed since the signing of the peace agreement in 2016. So there is extreme security risks for this community. Also, it has to be recognised the different dynamics within society here and the machista power dynamics, which have been mentioned both by people themselves day to day and through what I've witnessed myself perpetuate Colombian society. So gender is really at the heart of all security issues here whenever I've been doing my research. So yeah, when we research information security contextually, we often need to start at other topics before starting with technology, not starting with the digital, but understanding other elements of people's everyday lives and broader security issues as well. So for this reason, I look at the intersection of gender, land, and information security. As Cauca is a very rural department, it is very diverse in its region of landscapes and of populations as well. And many of the populations who I'm working with, many of these women have been forcibly displaced from the countryside to the city of Popayán, and that is why I've chosen this place as my fieldwork site. So therefore, the rights to protect land, the right to have uncontaminated water, the protection of the environment, and just the knowledge of flora and fauna in general are seen to directly impact gender security. And this has been intertwined with spaces for dialogue and information security in a multitude of ways as well. So this can go from how people advocate for such issues on social media to how such groups have practices to counter violence against the land or even within their families and communities more directly. So I'd just like to share one insight with you, which is been quite interesting for my research. I was invited to attend a gathering of young female leaders. They're an indigenous group of leaders just outside of the city of Popayán. And 40 women travelled from different parts of Cauca to attend a training about leadership in the region. The focus of this workshop was on how we can break interfamilial conflicts and intergenerational conflicts. And here we sat in a circle outside, and as military helicopters flew overhead, disturbing the tranquil settings and the soundtrack of the birds, we were guided through a practice to attend to these conflicts. While we had to list down the name of each family member, our address, our ID, and our phone number, I remember varying between the desire for wanting the practice to work while calming my inner information security student that providing so much personal information seems somewhat risky. And so we looked to the sun and the wind, then carried away the conflict that we had already written down. And this example highlights the information that shapes us and our family members, from our phone number to our understanding of different spaces and to these practices which constitute different forms of conflict resolution. And it also cannot be underestimated that sharing of ID numbers, sharing of other personal information becomes very normalized in societies that have been impacted by conflict, whether it's that you're going to do shopping, getting used to being stopped whenever you're traveling in and out of the city by military. There's always a form of expectation to handing over ID and personal identification. So therefore, this becomes quite normalized within society of what is seen as secure or insecure. So just moving on a little bit else to another topic that has came up is this idea of being alone, being abandoned, being disenfranchised. These have all been common threads throughout the research with the population that I've been working with. And this often then leaves women to communicate and heal in manners which work best for them. So somos solas, or we are not alone, is a phrase I have heard and seen painted across the walls in Popayán. And there's this real need to create safe spaces, to be together, to not be alone, and to be able to share safely in dialogue and to heal without the concern of security. This then directly links me on to the point of needing to be listened to. Throughout my work, I've also connected with a group of women who use drumming to share their stories of the conflict. One woman, she shared with me that we are not from a culture of writing, but we bring with us the songs from the countryside. And this form of communication was both a form of healing, contributing to shared dialogues, but this also contributed to their sense of ontological security of the group. And this alone, I think, can inform how we view technology in context, considering the comfort levels and the access levels that people have around different technologies. So many women do remain in silence through fear and through having no means to securely communicate. And this is something that the participants so far have expressed real interest in how technology can help give confidence to women to be able to speak about the stories that they have experienced in a more secure way. Lastly, I just briefly want to mention how access to infrastructures is not only uncertain due to the physical infrastructural limitations and economic expenses, but also these invisible permissions which guide physical and digital access to communities and to technologies as well. These permissions are often obtained through multiple actors. When people have kindly invited me to other parts of the department, I'm often given the forewarning that permission will need to be granted or gained. Participants insights into access, for example, knowing where to drive, when to take off your helmet so the GRIA groups know who's entering in and out of the regions, who in the community to contact, who can permit whether you have internet access in non-formal ways or not, or in how gender roles for women who take on care work and who are largely based in the home, therefore have secondary access to means of technology, maybe compared to the male members of their household who often have to leave to work outside of the home. So these permissions and forms of access also directly impact the feeling of security for women here in Cauca and in the level of access that they're able to obtain. So working at this intersection of digital and ontological security has really interesting insights, which I hope can work towards broadening our understandings of what security means, especially in complex socio-political situations as well, and to lead towards more creative methodologies that security researchers can use. So with that being said, that is my introduction to the research I'm doing so far. I'd certainly welcome any questions, or I do have a point for discussion of how can we further leverage qualitative methods to shed light on security and privacy realities. Thank you very much.